Alright, we's on the highway now. Just stopped at the airport, got us some oil before we headed out of town. Now we're in for a 7-hour drive, which could definitely get longer, depending on how Atlanta goes. So we'll see. It's been a while since I recorded. It's been a pretty eventful last couple of weeks for it. Well, really last 2 months for us since the FLW on the Harris chain, or MLF on the Harris chain. Came in 28th at the Bassmaster Harris chain. Got us off to a solid start. Missed the Natty's cut by half a pound-ish. So that was kind of tough to stomach, but had a big comeback on day 2, dropped 20 on day 2, and got ourselves kind of back in it. The biggest thing that I didn't want to do in Florida is shoot our foot in Team of the Year, and we didn't do that. So that's where this week is a big week for us. We've been fighting through a lot of mechanical issues too. We had a tournament at the end of January where my motor went down, and then my trolling motor went down, and we've been fighting through all those issues. So it's been eventful. I'm just glad that we're prepared for this one. It should be good. The weather's shaping up really good. There should be a bunch of fish biting. It's probably not going to take a whole lot to get inside the cut just because Norman doesn't have very many big ones in it, but I'm looking forward to it. It should set up a lot like Lake Martin and stuff around here. So we're pretty conditioned in fishing like that. So stay tuned. Practice starts tomorrow. Hopefully we don't run into any problems traveling. We're supposed to get into town about 8 o'clock tonight, depending on traffic and stuff. So we'll keep y'all updated if we run into anything. Otherwise, we'll let y'all know when we get to the hotel. Woohoo! We made it. Hampton Inn, Cornelius, North Carolina. We're here. All the boys are here. Well, some of them. I'm fixing to grab my laptop, punch me in some waypoints in that there unit while I eat my Wendy's. So we started day 1 of practice offshore, looking in some of these shorter drain type pockets, looking for some offshore stuff, maybe a place to fill a quick limit on forward facing, some spotted bass type of stuff, and honestly never really seen what we were looking for out there. We seen a bunch of fish swimming around out there and could never really get them to bite, and when we did get one to bite, it was either small or crappie. So we took that, kind of said if it's gonna happen offshore, we would have figured it out. It would have been pretty obvious. So it didn't take us long to go to the bank and start hitting some boat docks. Actually seen some fish cruising and picked up a fluke in this clip here, and I think this was like my 3rd throw with it.
Watch for that and get it. Good one too.
After seeing those cruising fish and picking up a fluke and picking one up pretty quick, that was kind of my cue to pick up that mag draft and start slinging it around. That's how I hope to catch them in this tournament. I was just looking for some positive feedback right away in practice, and this is about as close to positive feedback as you can get on Lake Norman.
Big ass spot. I thought it was too. That's a freaking big ass spot on the draft. Take a picture. 4 1/4 pound spot. Gosh, I just hope they stay on the shifty tournament. Power Pro 65-pound braid, doubled back like 6 times, works as a rope. If you lose all yours when you know your motor breaks for the 3rd time in a month. So yeah, that's the situation that we're in right now. The motor will not idle, and it will not hold any fuel pressure. So fry the fuel pump. We spent quite an hour and a half calling all the marinas around here. No one's either going to be able to work on it before Friday, or we did get one guy, and he was not super confident with his abilities to have the parts to fix it. So we're fixing to have to find a boat that isn't this one. Hopefully we make it back to the boat ramp with the 65-pound braid. Otherwise, I reckon we're trolling motoring or swimming.
braid broke. We got a rope though. All right, Scott, what are we doing? What are we up to?
We're off the water quite early for us because we know how to break stuff.
We're really good at breaking stuff.
If you need something broke, just send it our way.
Yeah.
We can break it for you.
We are the head of breaking stuff department. So, motor will not get any fuel. The bulb has got some compression problems, so it's not getting any fuel. It won't idle under 2,000 RPMs. Called pretty much every marina between here and Charlotte, North Carolina, and no one can work on it before for the tournament. So that's good. I think the plan is right now we're going to go drop it at the hotel, and then we're going to drive 4 hours to meet some of our teammates with Scott's boat
And the green bean.
And drive 4 hours back to here. Hopefully we'll be back here by 3 in the morning so we can get like 4 hours of sleep tonight. But that's barring no other issues, and as we formally stated, we're the head of the breaking stuff department, so there is no guarantees. As far as practice today, for the 6.5 hours that we got to practice, we caught that big spot. We caught some other like solid 2-pounders and stuff, and they're all doing the same deal, so they're really patternable. So, I mean, for the limited practice time that we got, we're hopeful, and I don't know. We'll see. We're going to probably stick in that same area and just kind of try and expand on what we have, because I don't think those fish are going to reload very well in the backs of those drains, but they, I think we have enough to hold up for a day, and we need to find some more to run, and maybe a backup plan if that stuff doesn't work. So that'll be tomorrow. Hopefully I don't have to document anything tonight. We're just going to drive to Georgia, pick up the boat, and come back. Yeah, barring no issues, we'll be back here at 3 o'clock in the morning, ready to kick it tomorrow. All right, so that was it for day one of practice. Like I said, ended up having my motor go down. No one was able to look at it. Thankfully, we are on a team full of some really supportive people, and we did get my partner's boat from Montevallo over to Athens, Georgia. We met about halfway. It was about a 4-hour drive for the both of us from Montevallo to Athens and from Charlotte to Athens. So it was a pull, especially after a long day of practice, but we were just thankful to have a boat to fish out of. So drove there, spent the night in Athens, got up about 2:30 in the morning to make the 4-hour trek back over to Cornelius, where the tournament's at on Lake Norman, and started our day of practice on day two. Day two, that Wednesday, was definitely supposed to be kind of a really big weather switch from what they had. It had been really consistent warm weather over there for a while before the tournament, and then when we rolled into town, it was a big switch. We had big thunderstorms roll through on that Wednesday, so we weren't even sure how much fishing we were really going to be able to get done. But we did end up getting out. We started the day kind of focusing on the backs of the pocket, some of these muddier run-ins and stuff, like back behind the bridges and stuff. We found that the water was dirtier and a little warmer back there, and it was pretty stereotypical pre-spawn type of stuff, channel swing type banks leading to spawning flats and stuff, and we got some good bites right away in the morning doing that. We shook off a couple good ones and stuff, so we got the day rolling like that. We figured that hopefully we could start kind of in the backs of those dirty pockets like this one here or this one over here. We could start back there in that dirty water because it wouldn't lose as much water temperature, and then move to our draft fish and some of our cleaner water, more floating dock related fish. So we just kind of, after we expanded on that dirty water a little bit, we came back out to the fronts and slung that mag draft a little more, threw a floating worm and a fluke a little more. These were kind of the types of pockets that we were targeting for that type of stuff. Just these shorter run-in pockets close to the main lake, but still in some of these bigger creek arms that run back. I think that they were some of the first fish that were starting to pull up, and we knew that there was probably going to be some fish on beds, but we hadn't seen one, and day 2 of practice was definitely not the day to look with all the cloud cover that we had. So we kind of rolled out day 3 knowing that we had a lot of water still that we wanted to cover. We put in down below the bridge and kind of focused more on this mid section of the lake where you can see I got a whole bunch of markers and stuff where I marked before we even came. Some good looking stuff, and just kind of ran around. At this point we knew what we were looking for with the mag draft type of stuff. Boat docks leading into short little pockets like this hard turn, stuff like that, where those fish would stage before they came up to the flats. And ultimately about 10:30 we were going down a bank and we finally seen our first fish on bed. We'd heard a lot of our teammates talking about catching fish on beds in pockets similar to what we were fishing, stuff like this, like shorter, run-in pockets in between the boat docks. But we really hadn't seen any of that going on at all. But after we seen that first one, it was like the light bulb switched for us, and we ended up marking probably 5 or 6 more in the last hour and a half of practice of that day. Found one like 4 or 5 pounds that we kind of wanted to start on for day 1 of the tournament. Found some other keepers that if we got in a bind, we could definitely run to and hopefully catch, as well as shook a couple more off on a mag draft and a floating worm. So coming into day 1 of the tournament, we felt really, really confident. The only thing was that it was supposed to be about 36 degrees when we took off day 1 of the tournament. So we weren't quite sure how that was going to affect our fish, but we were excited to find out.
Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for this beautiful day. Thank you for this beautiful lake.
So day 1 of the event on Lake Norman started off about how they were forecasting it. It was supposed to be the coldest morning of the week. All week we'd seen lows in the mid to upper 40s and warming up really quickly after that. But the conditions that we had on day 1 were not like that. It was only supposed to warm up to about 60 degrees throughout the day, and it started in the mid 30s. So we weren't really sure what that was going to do to our fish. We had planned on starting on a big one that we had found on a bed. There were some other good ones in that area as well, so we were hoping to get off to a really hot start in the morning. But when we got there, we ultimately found that those fish had pulled off because of the cold night, so we had to adjust and go to our dirty water backup plan. Fuck yeah. Hell yeah. How about that one?
It's a good one to start the day with.
We only ended up catching that one good one out of our dirty water. It was about a 3-pounder. So we figured the sun was up high enough, so we made the move to some of our swim bait and floating worm type of stuff, and noticed right away that they were eating it kind of funny. You'll see in these next couple of clips that we miss a couple of good ones early in the morning on a mag draft.
Número 2 bass. I think. Yeah, he looks like a 14.5 inch. Did you see that?
No.
I pulled it up on that branch and was fixing to hop it over, and he was like, nah, he ain't going over. Stinging on my side. Damn near 50 inches. Twinsies.
Me and Scott got twins. Two of the right kind there. That's gotta be the most awkward fucking fish catch ever.
Number 2, draft bass.
That one ended up being number 4 for us. He actually got the mag draft really well. That was in a pocket that we had never made a cast in practice. We just marked it and said that it looked good. We didn't make it much further down the bank, and as you can see, we found one on a bed. This one looked like it was a 4 or a 5, maybe even bigger, and it was paired up with a spotted bass. And we made a couple pitches at it and figured it was spooked. I kind of got up on it on the trolling motor, so Scott made a pitch back there with a shaky head, and this happened.
Yes, sir. Is that the same fish?
I don't know.
Heck yeah.
Number 5.
We believe that one was the male on the bed, but after we caught the male, the female never would set back up on the bed, so we ended up just burning down the bank a little more with the swim bait. Had another good one miss it, and then that was pretty much it for us. We ran some new water, didn't get any more bites, and headed on back to weigh-in. Man, I wish we could have got rid of those two. You guys got them? Thank you, you guys too.
University of Montevallo from Tennessee over to Alabama. Tyler Corey and Scott Sledge. They're bringing 5 fish to the scales today. Good job, Scott. Come on in here. Let's see these 5 for the University of Montevallo. Tyler and Scott. 13 pounds and an ounce all the way to 11th place. Good start right there for Team Montevallo. Tyler and Scott, 13 pounds and an ounce. Great job right there. Thanks to everybody back home watching, all the folks around here, all the spectators watching, the moms, the grandparents. Awesome start right here for you folks. Great fishery, great anglers. Put them together, and you got a bunch of fireworks and a tight race right here for the Strike King Bassmaster College, Bassmaster College Series presented by Bass Pro Shop. Kyle.
So after all the dust settled for day 1 weigh-in, we ended up tied for 20th place, just inside that Nationals cut line with 13 and change. We were pretty happy to have it. It was kind of a hodgepodge of a day for us, so we weren't really sure how we were going to repeat it on day 2, if we were going to be able to. The plan was a lot of the same. We were going to run to the dirty water to start with, hoping that there was maybe 1 or 2 more good ones left in there for us, and then move to our mag draft stuff. Fortunately, I don't have any clips from day 2 of the tournament. Ended up losing the GoPro and the YOLO Tech at about 9 o'clock in the morning. So it was, at that point, it was off to a hot start for us. We ran to our wood and our dirty water stuff and found a whole lot more company than was in there on day 1. There were some locals fishing around in there. There were some other college guys in there. So we just didn't feel super comfortable back there. So we left and ran to some other wooded type of banks where we had shook some fish off in practice and Didn't catch anything there either, so we ran to our mag draft stuff, hoping that was going to be firing. The sun was up, the wind was blowing. Those are usually the perfect conditions for catching them on that thing, and it never really happened for us. We ran to that area where I caught that good one on a spot, or that good spot on day one of practice, and had some other good follows and stuff, and never seen any interaction on it on the fluke, on the floating worm, or on the mag draft. It was dead in there, and we weren't really sure why. Looking back on it, I think that fishing pressure had finally gotten to them. I think you mix that with the cold mornings both days and the big weather changes, plus the fact that there was a lot of guys cycling the same stuff, and I think that those fish just really kind of got conditioned to what was going on. But that left us kind of at a loss. That was our game plan for the day, was to stay in that mag draft water and fish clean stuff and catch 5 good ones cruising the bank like that. But that had clearly dried up. So at about 11:30, we had to make a decision, and we made the executive decision to run to the area where we had seen that big one on a bed. On day 2 or day 1 of the tournament, where Scott had caught that good one, that good spot on a shaky head, and there was that big largemouth paired up with it. There are some other ones on bed in that area too. We had our most confidence in that area. We knew that there was good ones around there, and we just needed to put our head down, and we'd hopefully find 5 good ones locked on bed that we could catch. Ran back to the big one and she was gone. Ran to some of the other ones and they were gone. So at that point, we were really at a loss. We were not sure where our first keeper bite was going to come, and that's a bad feeling at noon on the second day of a tournament, that you were not in contention to win, but definitely in contention to get inside the cut. So we just kind of kicked the chow motor on 100 and went to rolling down the bank. We found our first one at like noon on a bed and caught him within 20 minutes. It was a solid 2-pound spot to get us rolling. Went a little bit further down the bank and found another one on a bed that was about 3 pounds, and he was acting kind of funny, so we planned to come back to him and ended up finding another pair that was acting even weirder. But it sure would have been nice to have those two, because the male was probably about 3 pounds and the other one, the female that was up there with them, was probably like 4 or 5. So we hope to catch those. They were acting really funny. They were swimming big circles around the bed. We could never get them to lock on. They were very skittish. So we ended up devoting the majority of our time to that 3-pounder that was by himself. And he took some time too. He took about 40 minutes to catch him. Ultimately did end up catching him. So then we had 2, but we didn't have much time left. It was like 1:30 and we were an early boat number on day 2. So we were due in probably like 3:10 or 3:20. Ended up running to a fish that we had found that last day of practice when we were marking beds. He'd been there on day 1 as well, but he wouldn't have helped us at all on day 1, so we just kind of let him be, hoping that we wouldn't need him on day 2, but knowing that there was definitely a possibility that we would need him. And I'm really thankful that we did leave him alone, because we could have very easily came in with 2 fish on day 2 if it wasn't for him. Ended up working him for probably 20 or 30 minutes and caught him. He was only about 15 inches and maybe 1.5 pounds. He'd been beat up on bed, but we were really thankful to have him. He was big. Without him, it would have been really tough to climb back out of the hole that we dug ourselves in. After we caught him, though, we were pretty much out of time. We had to make the run back to weigh in. We weren't sure how rough it was going to be. Anyone who was out there on day 2 knows that it was rolling on day 2. So we left with about 45 minutes to get back. We pulled into a pocket next to the boat ramp with maybe 10 minutes left to fish, and we got a little bit of a gift. Scott threw a mag draft up on a little windblown point that I'm sure there had been 100 boats that had fished it, and ended up catching our 4th one, which was about a 15-inch spot that might have weighed 1.5 pounds, but we were really thankful to have him. And with that, we ran in. That was it for our day 2.
University of Montevallo, Tyler, Corey, Scott, Sledge, 13 pounds and an ounce yesterday, bringing us 4 in the bag today, 1 shy of a limit. Well, how did we catch your fish today?
Everything, just by luck.
Junket fishing? 8 pounds, 2 ounces today, 21 pounds, 3 ounces today total weight.
So after all the dust settled after day 2 weigh-in, we ended up in 37th with 21 and change. Obviously, we were a little disappointed that we couldn't get number 5, especially only missing the cut line by 2 pounds. It would have taken 1 2-pounder on day 2 to get us inside the natty cut and in a lot better position for team of the year. But ultimately, we can't complain. We stayed in it mentally. It would have been really easy for us to come in with 1 or 2 keepers on that really tough second day, as a lot of people did. I'm really proud of the way that we stayed in it. It was not easy at all. If we had made that decision to go fish for those bedfish and we kept with the mag draft, it would have been really easy to zero that day. So ultimately, it keeps us in it. We should be in the top 5 for team of the year through the first two, and the next ones are the ones that I was really looking forward to getting to. Norfolk is going to be a blast, and Saginaw is as well. So we're going to have to pick it up a little bit, but we're sitting in a pretty good position right now. I appreciate you guys watching, and keep an eye out for the Norfolk video coming up soon.